Media recognition from Bloomberg, Reuters, recycling trade publications. Patented process for 100% recovery of critical metals, including cobalt, lithium, nickel, manganese, aluminum. American Manganese is focused on recycling lithium-ion batteries for electric vehicles. American Manganese trades on the TSX Venture, AMY, the US, AMYZF, and Frankfurt 2AM. For more information, visit AmericanManganeseInc.com or phone me, Larry Ray, at 778-574-4444.
You're listening to HowStreet.com radio, available online at TalkDigitalNetwork.com. Welcome to HowStreet.com radio, the online source for market opinions. Here is Jim Goddard.
My guest is Sean Brodrick, senior editor at WeissRatings.com. Welcome back to the show, Sean.
Thanks for having me on.
Sean, the U.S. dollar, what's the story there?
Well, it surprised many people by taking a bounce in January that's just been going and going. Well, really, it was oversold. I mean, everyone had turned bearish on it, and when you have sentiment swing too far one way, then things tend to bounce simply because there's no one left to sell. But it seems to be trying to go lower today, and that's really lit a fire under gold and silver and things like that. However, I would caution people that U.S. dollar hasn't broken its recent uptrend yet. I would wait for it to break that uptrend before I got really bullish. Really bullish on gold. Here's the thing, though. We keep hearing news out of the incoming Biden administration that the sky's the limit on spending. And if that's the case, now they'll have to get it through Congress. It's not like they rule by fiat, but if they aren't going to slow down the pace of spending at all, and take the big spending that Washington had been allocating to billionaires and millionaires through tax cuts, and instead take that money and spend it on infrastructure, which is one of the things they're talking about, and green energy, which is another thing they're talking about, and on and on and on. If they start to spend the money on the actual economy, that's probably going to be inflationary. One reason that these ultra-low interest rates haven't been inflationary so far is that the money mainly washes around Wall Street. There are big banks that use the money, take loans, loan it to each other, and just put that money into the stock market, so it doesn't affect the real price of anything except stocks. But if what Team Biden is speaking about is spending on the real economy, and that's inflationary, and so that might be one of the things that could weigh on the U.S. dollar. That said, and I can't emphasize this enough, it's been in a short-term uptrend since January. That uptrend is not broken. So don't rush to buy anything, but wait to see if it breaks that uptrend. If it does, then we've probably seen a bottom in gold and a top in the dollar, and you can invest accordingly.
Mm-hmm. Gold and silver been kind of in a trading range lately, and that was their history before the big boost last year. Are they going to languish in that little trading territory for a while, or are they awaiting what happens with the U.S. dollar?
Well, actually, they've been in a downtrend since August. It's really been very disappointing for many of us. As you say, it's been kind of a trading range since late December. And so we'll have to see how things go. But again, I would wait and see what happens with the U.S. dollar. If it breaks its short-term uptrend, then it'll go into a downtrend, and that will be very good for the gold and silver names.
We'll have more with Sean Brodrick right after this.
Avon Resources Limited is a gold exploration company with significant projects in British Columbia and the Yukon, trading on the TSX Venture Exchange, symbol ABN, and the OTCQB, symbol ABNAF. Surrounded by world-class gold deposits and mines, Avon's 23,000 hectares Forest Kerr Gold Project is located in the heart of the Golden Triangle in northwestern BC. For more information, visit us at avonresources.com.
Engineer Gold Mines is focused on the exploration and development of the historic high-grade Engineer Gold Mine situated 32 kilometers southwest of Atlin, British Columbia. Engineer Gold Mines is fully permitted for surface and underground exploration with the drill program now underway. Engineer Gold Mines Limited trades on the TSX Venture Exchange, symbol EAU. For more information, please visit us at engineergoldmines.com.
Welcome back. We're speaking with Sean Brodrick. Sean, what's happening with crude?
Crude's looking more bullish all the time. Partly because we saw the Saudi Arabians announce new cuts of their own, all on their own, really, which is great, and also more bad news for the oil industry out of Libya, or I should say bad news for oil production out of Libya, which is they've really been holding their oil infrastructure together with like spit and bubble gum ever since they had those uprisings a few years back, and now it keeps breaking down, which is hurting their exports. Anyway, so those are two big oil powers which have cut their production one way or another, and people are looking forward to the end of the pandemic. That said, we have a new strain of COVID-19 spreading around, which is more contagious than the previous strain. So that could put a damper on things if we start to see infection rates rise. You know, if we start to see another wave of the pandemic. I don't know what's going to happen with that, but definitely oil looks bullish now. Oil and gas, I mean, they look very strong. And like many of these oil stocks were beaten down badly, and they didn't recover as fast as the oil price did. So, you know, there are some bargains out there. I think people should look at the industry, just be aware that if there's another spread of the pandemic, if we go into another wave, then that's probably going to negatively impact oil prices.
Plus, they keep saying, oh, oil is dead. Everybody's going to be in e-cars. Well, the thing is, e-cars are very expensive. And if you look at how much there's a price difference between an electric car and a regular car without a government subsidy, they're still hugely unaffordable for most of the population.
Yeah, but the prices are coming down. And the new models that they're going to roll out might be in the purchasing window of like many people. And anyway, everything's subsidized. I mean, oil, at least here in the U.S., is like subsidized through a whole bunch of different tax loopholes we have. So, I'm not really worried about that too much. I do think, green energy is something to watch, but it's such a small portion of the car market. That's one thing people don't realize. It's not like oil is going away overnight. Oil isn't going away in the next 20 years. People will still run their cars on oil. And so, as long as you're not making really long-term plans, you know, there's a good trade in here in the energy space.
We'll have more with Sean Brodrick right after this.
Value from success. Growth in discovery. Golden Arrow Resources is a well-funded gold-copper exploration company with proven management and prospective properties in Chile, Argentina, and Paraguay. Golden Arrow trades on the Toronto Venture Exchange, symbol GRG, on Frankfurt, symbol G6A, and the OTCQB, symbol GARWF. For more information, visit us at goldenarrowresources.com or call Sean at 778-686-0135.
Don't miss out. Stay informed. Receive the HowStreet.com weekly recap with thought-provoking podcasts, radio, and articles delivered to your inbox. Sign up for the HowStreet.com weekly recap on our homepage at HowStreet.com.
Welcome back. We're speaking with Sean Brodrick. Sean, what's going on with cannabis?
You know, we've been banking gains. We have open gains on new positions we put on. Really, I don't have any complaints. I mean, knock on wood, right? In fact, I was bragging about how well cannabis stocks are doing Friday when everything else was selling off. And then, sure enough, cannabis stocks sold off too, just because the markets like to punish me. But, I mean, if you look at the bigger trend, they look very, very good. And we keep hearing more bullish news out of the incoming administration. President Trump wasn't necessarily anti-Trump, but he wasn't anti-cannabis, but he wasn't going to do anything to actually help it, you know? And then he had a series of like attorneys general and other people in the administration who flat out hated it. Well, the new administration is much more sympathetic to it. And now that Democrats have control of Congress and potentially the Senate, something could pass through. I say potentially because it's a razor-thin margin. And if some conservative Democrats decide to be anti-marijuana, they could block anything trying to go through. But the Democrats do get to set the agenda, and bills that were not able to make it to the floor before will at least get a vote. So that's kind of a bullish outlook. And then you have more and more companies that are actually starting to make money, at least here in the U.S., Things look better and better. That doesn't stop me from buying Canadian companies, because one of the really weird things I've discovered recently is that the more good news there is on the U.S. cannabis market, the better the Canadian stocks do. I mean, you still can't import it across the border and everything, but I guess people are, expecting what will come in the future. And so Canadian stocks, which were beaten down into the dirt as well, look better and better. So I like things in many, many places for cannabis right now. It's one of the best performing things we're investing in.
Lithium. We just finished talking about electric cars. You can't have an electric car without a battery. Most batteries use lithium. Is that a bright spot?
Yeah, our lithium and battery stocks and ETFs are going up and up and up. Again, this may be a market getting ahead of itself, or it's just people are really seeing a seismic shift in the auto market. It will not happen overnight, but all that infrastructure has to be built. All those new batteries have to be designed and developed and all that stuff. So of course you're going to see money pouring into the space. Companies have to secure supply chains, and really it's tough to plan for 10 years and have your idea of what the supply chain for your lithium supplies will be, considering how many different countries and companies want it in the world, So, yeah, we're going to see a lot more money pour into this space. We're doing well with it right now, and I plan to do more stuff in it. Any pullbacks, I think, can be bought.
One of the new sources of lithium that people hadn't looked at, apparently there's a lot of it in old oil storage tanks. And so a place like Texas could all of a sudden become a lithium producer.
Yeah, it seems like every month I hear about some new source of lithium people haven't looked at before, and that may be a good one. On the other hand, the thing to always keep in mind is it economically feasible? And especially when you're talking about old oil tanks, is there going to be an environmental impact that you're going to have to shoulder the cost of, which you don't really want to? So, but the thing to really take away from it is that they're looking for new ways to do this all the time, through recycling, through taking off the byproducts from like other mines and like stuff like that. There's a lot of good things going on. So yeah, that looks pretty good to me.
Rare earths are finally getting attention in North America.
Yeah, isn't that crazy? I mean, it used to be America was the biggest rare earths producer in the world. Then China came along and undersold everybody and drove the U.S. out of business. But now it's become a government directive that all these critical minerals, some of which are rare earths, there are like 17 rare earths. I think 3 are on the list of the critical minerals. But in any case, we are seeing the Pentagon and the Department of Energy invest money in projects in order to boost lithium production and processing. Processing is important because along with putting all the other lithium miners out of business, China consolidated processing in its own country. There is lithium mined in the, there are rare earths mined in the U.S. today that have to be shipped to China to be processed and then shipped back here. So there's a whole infrastructure that needs to be built up. And it's very important because, to make the modern technology, we need rare earths. There's no other way around it. There are plenty of rare earths in the Earth's crust, but finding them in deposits that are economically viable is another thing together. That said, there are plenty of rare earths here in the U.S., but we don't have the infrastructure to actually mine and process and do that kind of stuff with them. So I expect a lot more money is going to be going into this area, and there might be some surprising winners. I just wrote a report on this for my gold and silver Trader subscribers should go out in the next couple of weeks and just speak about some of the opportunities there, because the opportunities are obvious. You know, you can see what's happening here. It isn't going away. There's more and more demand all the time. Supplies are already squeezed. It'll be an interesting space to watch, I think.
You were talking about inflation might rear its ugly head. It hasn't really been a problem for such a long time. Are people unaware that it could become a problem?
I think people have gotten too used to living in a low inflation environment. And that was true for a long time, low inflation, because basically we created all this money, but we just gave it to Wall Street and to investors and stuff like that. It wasn't put into the real economy. If they do put it in the real economy, and that isn't a given, there are things here that might happen and might not happen. For example, President Biden is asking for $1.9 trillion in like new infrastructure and green energy spending. Goldman Sachs thinks he might get half of that, you know? So some things might happen, some things might not happen. But if large amounts of money start going into the real economy, that is going to be inflationary. Because it isn't just Wall Street swapping around big funds. It actually goes into things we buy and use. So yeah, I think people should be aware of that. The last round of inflation numbers we got, and I'm speaking CPI, was not high, but it was the highest we'd had in a year. And so things might be picking up there. So keep your eyes peeled. You could see inflation in the, not necessarily near term, but within the next 6 months. It might be something that everyone starts talking about.
Sean, thank you so much for chatting with us.
Thanks. I had a great time.
My guest has been Sean Brodrick, Senior Editor at WeissRatings.com. If you have any questions for Sean or any of our other guests, you can send them to info@HowStreet.com. Our YouTube channel, Talk Digital Network. Find us on Twitter @HowStreet. We're also on Facebook. I'm Jim Goddard. Thank you for listening.
Comments made on HowStreet.com radio are an expression of opinion only and should not be construed in any matter whatsoever as recommendations to buy or sell any financial instrument at any time. Available online at TalkDigitalNetwork.com. HowStreet.com radio is a production of HowStreet Media Incorporated.